Hello everyone, this is Alex and welcome to Burton Land, where we discuss all things Tim Burton. Now, I know that part 2 has been out for some time, but I've been on holiday, and I had to quickly catch up with it and really take my time over it. And then what did I ended up doing? I ended up rewatching the whole thing again just to see how both parts came about. So again, this is just going to be my sort of casual, review on part 2. And I knew I had to write notes for this one. Because I have notes. Overall, I really did love the whole season 2 and part 2 as well. Especially, certain episodes, but we'll get into that. So, I think the best thing to do, and before I get into it, there will be spoilers. So, okay, so what did I actually write back? So I've sort of broken it down into episodes. So with episode 5, of course we have to address that Principal Weems is back. Thank goodness, because I really enjoyed Gwendola Christie's performance as Principal Weems in season 1, and I was really glad they managed to find a way to get her back in some way, shape or form. So in this, she's obviously Wednesday's spirit guide, and I love that her spirit guide is someone who's just so, clashes with Wednesday, because, let's be honest, that is kind of what Wednesday needed, because, as evident in this particular episode, she's kind of taking things a little bit too far, especially with, Tyler and the Hide, especially now that he no longer has his master, Christina Ricci, from if anyone knows what happened in episode 4. But that was kind of interesting, and again, this is something that I brought up for my part 1 review, is that, the idea of there was a lot more exploring, the outcast abilities, and this does actually come back round, particularly with Morticia and Gomez later on in part 2. So we see that, and we also see that in the other characters, so Wednesday is unable to control her psychic abilities, and it's really frustrating, because let's be honest, she just wants the easy way out, as most of us do. And then obviously we've got Enid with her now, sort of realizing that actually she might be an alpha. So there's stuff hanging in the air about that. And then even so, we've got someone like Bianca who's feeling very powerless because she's unable to use her siren song against the person that she really wants to. So we'll get into that in a bit. And then again, also with Pugsley, thinking that he's getting better with his electric, but obviously his electric powers is what created that zombie. And we'll get into the zombie character. So it was interesting that, we had this whole thing with the spirit guide with Principal Weems. So what did I say? Oh yeah, episode 5 had a lot to do with the Day of the Dead. Can I just say, I really love the idea of Day of the Dead. I think it's a holiday that needs to be a lot more well known. Obviously we've got, films like Coco and Book of Life, both great films by the way, check them out. But yeah, no, I just generally love the whole idea, just putting a little sort of thinking in a different way about death that I really appreciate, and this clearly has taken an inspiration on Tim Burton's work. Think about, Beetlejuice or Corpse Bride or whatever, just thinking about it in a sort of more, I don't want to say more positive way, but sort of a fun spin on the idea. So I really, really love seeing that imagery. I wish there was a little bit more with it, but can I just say, I love Morticia's look during the Day of the Dead. That's probably one of my favourite costumes from her, so that was fantastic. And yeah, okay, so I kind of predicted that patient that was in episode 4 that they sort of lingered on a little bit. At first I thought, oh, is this Ophelia? And I was like, I feel that's a little bit too obvious. And then I was like, well, who's the next one? And I was like, okay, why was Galpin so obsessed with it? It has to be Tyler's mom. And I was right. And this creates a very interesting relationship going on with her and Tyler. I remember I was saying in the back of my mind going, is this why am I suddenly thinking of like, you know, Norman Bates? And then they actually made a joke about that, and I was like, oh good, it's not just me. So I was on the right wavelength. Yeah, so overall, episode 5, it was pretty good to get things back, and it was a way to kind of set up for things to come, especially with the zombie character, as we now figure out who he actually is, because we knew that he had a connection with Willow Hill. No, not Willow Hill. Is that the name of the asylum? I can't remember. Whoops. But yeah, because obviously he recognised Stonehurst, the guy behind it, and that's when he started talking, because that was one of the things that I was really curious about. I was like, okay, he started speaking, what's gonna happen? Boy, does his character become something, but we'll get further into that. Okay, episode 6. Oh boy, I'm gonna disappoint a lot of people. I think this was probably my least favourite episode of the entire series. There, I said it. I'm not saying it was bad, but a part of me did think, really? Are we really doing the Freaky Friday plot line? Are we really doing that? Now granted, it was interesting because it was with people, you know, 2 people that are extreme polar opposites, with Wednesday and Enid, but I just thought, really? This is what's going to cause Enid's death if they don't figure it out, and this is what prevents her from dying? I just thought, writers, are we really doing this? So I will say this, the saving grace of that episode was Jenna and Emma. Their performances were phenomenal. I think that was probably the best acting, with the kind of switch bodies, you know, pretending, you know, being the other person's character in your body and trying to pretend to be that person or whatever. You know, they really, really did their homework. They really got down who those characters were, you know, switching sides and all that sort of thing so well. And like, there were times when I thought that they were being dubbed by that particular, and I was like, no, those were actually those 2 actresses just pretending to be that other person. And I was like, yeah, you got Jenna and Emma. That's Oscar-worthy performance, honestly. I mean, to be fair, your performances are amazing anyway, but that was something else. But yeah, I just thought from a writing standpoint, I was like, it's, you know, it's been done. And also, this is also what I'm not a fan of with those kind of body swapping storylines, is that it makes the other characters look so stupid. It's like Morticia, Gomez, Pugsley, Wednesday is smiling. That's not normal. Like, what the hell? And I was like, you should have picked this up ages ago, seriously. So, you know, yeah, and that also brings to the whole Lady Gaga cameo. And I know some people were disappointed in how short her cameo was. I wasn't that disappointed because, in all honesty, I think they mentioned, I think it was like in a Jenna Ortega interview, I think she mentioned something like she was only there for like a day. So I was like, yeah, this is gonna be like a 1 scene, maybe 1.5 scenes tops. And it was. So I guess maybe I was kind of saying, okay, she's huge, she's Lady Gaga, she's not gonna be in it that long, and she's not. But, to be fair, we get a great new song, and Dead Dance, to me, feels like classic Gaga to me. I used to be such a fan, I say used to be, that's harsh. I was such a big fan of hers when I was a teenager. You know, I loved, you know, the Fame Monster, Born This Way, Art Pop. And then when she started to get into acting, I felt her music was, it was still good, but it still wasn't grabbing me as those earlier ones. This one felt like this is the Lady Gaga that I know and love. And the music video that was also directed by Tim Burton, oh my god, the visuals. Fantastic. Or it was so good. The choreography was good, which also they brought to episode 7, which we'll get into maybe a little bit. So yeah, I really loved it. Maybe I should do a video on like the music videos that Tim's done over his career. That might be an interesting one. leave a comment if you're interested. But yeah, so, and then what was and I think the only other really good part that, as far as like from a writing standpoint from episode 6, was the whole story with Agnes. You know, I really started to feel for her, like, this episode. You started to feel like she just wants to be part of something, and it's almost like all that she can think about is to be basically a clone. And so it kind of interlinks with her, you know, outcastability of being invisible. And so my favourite scene from that episode was really her going to that that sort of like convention, that little group with Christopher Lloyd and Thing and all the different severed body parts. The eyeballs were the best. And because it also relates to Thing wanting to know where he came from. We're gonna get into that, So that was the best part. So I feel like Agnes was really coming through, and I was like, okay, I'm starting to feel for her. I'm starting to see from her side of things. I want to see more of her now. Because at first she was just kind of the sidekick that was useful to Wednesday, and then also kind of annoying to Enid and whatever, but I felt like, okay, we're actually getting a character out of her now, so I'm interested. So now I'm interested in her and her storyline. Okay. So, as I was watching episode 6 and it was wrapping up, I was thinking, okay, I know Tim Burton's directing the last 2 episodes. Tim, you better save this, because, I don't know, episode 6 was kind of... Thank God. Because I kind of wish now that he directed the last episode of season 1, because... we'll get to that when we get to my Tim Burton rankings and the endings. We'll get to that one. But... so episode 7, of course, is the one with the Venetian Gala, and it was great because it was a chance to have a sort of, you know, not a recycled, you know, dance. So everyone was in much different costumes, which was great. It was like a, you know, a blend of Venetian, Victorian, Georgian kind of, you know, blend, and then making it modern. So Colleen Atwood, fantastic work as usual. I particularly love Bianca's dress. Blue is her colour. She looked fabulous. And of course Wednesday's dress. Again, I love that she's got a little collar, and they sort of based her... they were sort of inspired by like Oscar Wilde with hers, and I can kind of see that. It was very elegant, and I love how her makeup was done. Who did her makeup on that? That was great. And then of course we have the dance from Enid and Agnes to Lady Gaga's new song, and it was great. I really liked that they gave Enid the dance scene in this season, and it was definitely different than the one from, you know, season 1. It didn't feel like it was just recycling from season 1, because they were like, oh, there was a very popular dance and it went viral, we need to do the same again. No. It felt very... they would have done it even if the dance wasn't as successful in season 1, and giving it to another character also gave it sort of fresh light in that eye. And then, of course, with episode 7, we get more information on this whole morning song, because that was one of the things that I was intrigued about from season 1. Because, like, that look of fear that Bianca had from her mother, she was like, my goodness, what happened? Like, what's going on in her personal life? And so seeing that come more forward, and this is when we discover that really the person behind Morning Song was Principal Dort, which is obviously played by Steve Buscemi. So that was interesting. Oh god, what's his name? Casper Van Dien or whatever. I'm so sorry if I'm forgetting the name, but yeah, I was like, oh my god, that's Casper! Yeah, he's also worked with Tim on Sleepy Hollow. That's cool! And I was like, damn, we're getting quite a few reunion actors that he's not worked with for a long time. Because I remember I was just like... because I think I forgot to mention in my part 1 of Anthony Michael Hall. Because at first I didn't recognise him, and I was like, of course it is, of course it is. And am I being weird, or is that somehow how I imagined Jim would have ended up if he didn't, if what happened to him in Edward Scissorhands didn't happen? Just a thought, spoilers. So yeah, that was fun. So yeah, a little cameo from Casper, that was pretty cool. And I loved how they get back at at Principal Dort at the end of episode 7. That was such poetic justice. It was great. I remember that there was obviously a whole thing with a chandelier, and I thought, this is making me think of Phantom of the Opera. This is so cool. So yeah, no, I really loved it. So let's get into the whole zombie plot line, because that becomes the actual climax. So the zombie actually turns out to be Tyler's uncle, so his mother's sister, oh my god, I'm forgetting her name, Francoise. And so the whole thing about him being a Da Vinci and a scientist and an inventor in that little stop motion short that we got in episode 1, yeah, again, that's urban legend. The truth is that he was trying to rid Francoise of her hide abilities. It just so happens that Sternhurst ended up, you know, taking his machines to Willow Hill to basically try and extract and give normies outcast abilities. So again, it's going into that whole theme of outcast abilities, and in order to do that, he used Gomez, who back when he was in Nevermore, he had electricity, much like Pugsley and Uncle Fester. So he did have those kind of powers, but obviously the experiment caused him to get rid of it. So that was interesting that they brought that plot line, because I remember they briefly mentioned it in episode 1, where it's like, oh Dad, I'm ashamed, it's a shame that, you know, it skipped out on you, and like, you know, how Grandma Ma's always shaming Gomez for not being a, you know, in her mind, a true outcast. But you know, he did have powers and they were just taken away from him, you know, and he thought he was being a good friend, but he didn't realize just the actual intention behind it. So again, I love how it went back to Gomez and Morticia. I was like, man, they got up to a lot during their Nevermore years. They met each other and they, you know, they were accused of murder, and then they wound up, which by the way, can we talk about that flashback? That flashback was amazingly filmed. The composition, the framing, the fact that they did it in black and white. Oh my god, it looked like I was watching a Frankenstein movie. It was so good. And it was when I was like, yep, I know that this is a Tim Burton directed episode. I was feeling it in the framing and the editing and the movement of the camera along with the actors. It was oh my god, it was so good. And the same with episode 7 as well. So. And I was like, yeah, kind of wish he did the climax for season 1, not gonna lie, but okay. So, and then it was also interesting because we first start it as a black and white stop motion short, then it goes into a live action black and white, and then the climax becomes live action color. So it's like, okay, we see it in all these different variants, which I really, really love. So I love that they actually bring back the whole experiment, and this is the climax, and then also having that, and then having Tyler and his mom as the hides fighting each other. That was epic. Again, it was like watching a classic monster movie, and I loved it. And obviously they made that little psycho joke, and I was like, oh, okay, I wasn't thinking too hard about it. I thought I was jumping the gun there, but thank goodness. And then, but the thing I did not expect was Thing. Thing used to be Isaac's hand, oh my god, and the whole, like, you know, rearranging the words, you know, Tom Riddle, Voldemort style, that was like, my mind was like I did not expect a Thing origin story at all. And I remember, I think it was, I can't remember if it was my season 1 review or my reaction to the trailer video where I said something like, I loved how he had stitches, and I was kind of theorizing going, was he like involved in some kind of Frankenstein mad scientist kind of thing? I mean, I was pretty close. I was pretty close. So I was, oh my god, my head was exploding at that point. So, and the fact that it was Thing having like that sort of final showdown was fantastic. And can we just take a moment? The only thing that I have to comment on episode 8, what the hell was the music from Dark Shadows doing in that episode, in that scene? Don't get me wrong, I love the music from Dark Shadows. I love Dark Shadows. I think it's a criminally underrated movie, but I was like, wait a minute. I know that music anywhere. And I was like, Tim, why are you using the music for Dark Shadows? Did you run out of music for the climax and you thought, oh, I'll just take it from like, you know, a lesser known of my films or whatever? I was just like, that was a really random choice, but you know, I just, every time I like was thinking about it, I was like, why am I hearing Dark Shadows? That's all I'm hearing. But what I especially loved about the climax is that it brought the Addams family. It was centered around the Addams family. So I love that it was the family that actually, you know, comes together and, you know, sort of quote unquote defeats the villains, lack of a better word, for the final episode. So, and that was one of the things that I really loved about, particularly about season 2, is that it was much more about the family as a whole. You know, obviously it gives Wednesday a little bit more of a spotlight, yes, but you know, there was much more of Gomez and Morticia, there was a bit more of Pugsley. I felt, sorry about that, my video just stopped recording. Anyway, yeah, so it was great to see the Addams family as a whole and a lot more of them, which is great. And of course, obviously we were introduced to Grandmama, and we've got this sort of upcoming thing about Aunt Ophelia, and I appreciate that the only glimpse of her, you know, we got the little flowers in her hair, much like the one that she has in the original 60s black and white TV show, so obviously the grandma knows something, I don't know what. And then obviously we've got, you know, Enid being an alpha and Wednesday's gonna hunt her down, so we've got that whole plot line going anywhere. But it's great that Uncle Fester's coming back, so that's always good to hear. So yeah, looking forward to season 3. So okay, big question, do I prefer season 2 over season 1? Well, I definitely prefer the climax in season 2, that's a definite. I don't know, because for me they're sort of roughly the same. There's a few things from season 2 that I prefer, and then there are some things in season 1 I prefer, so I'm not sure about that. I wonder, which do you prefer? Do you prefer season 1 or season 2? And what was your favourite episode now that season 2 is complete? Yeah, if you would like to leave your comments below and on what you thought, and if you enjoy more Tim Burton content, then there you go. Welcome to the channel. Anyway, having that said, my next video should be my Halloween episode, and yeah, look forward to that. I'll see you guys in Burtonland very soon. Take care.